Hello, good afternoon, and welcome. It is Wednesday, February 11th, 2026, and this is a special live from Tucson coverage of the Nancy Guthrie case from Courtroom Confidential, the fastest growing true crime news channel on YouTube. Thank you so much, everyone who decided to join us today. Usually, Wednesdays are a big day for us. We go live at night, Wednesday Night Live. It's your midweek check-in on all things true crime. But this week, I've been in Tucson every single day since Sunday, following every detail of the continuing developed case of Nancy Guthrie. She is the mother, of course, of Savannah Guthrie, the Today Show host. She's been missing. Today is day 11, but there's been a lot of very significant developments. So we're going to get into that, and I'm going to share with you as much as I have from on the ground experience as to what's going on, how the investigation is developing, my thoughts on how it's, where this could be leading. And what I'd really encourage you guys to do, because I don't really have a script for tonight. I don't have a bunch of points I want to hit. I'm going to just tell you everything I've been experiencing. I really would love for you to ask as many questions as you can. If there's something you've been wondering about, why aren't they doing this? Is this person a subject? What does law enforcement feel about that? As many of those as I can possibly answer, I will. But let me first thank everybody for being here. Carly Beans is in the chat. Sassy Me, OnlyFan OF. Who else do we got? Julia, the nurse. So many of our familiar faces and names. Thank you guys so much for being here. Kathy Mama Bear, Chicago Marie. And thank you to everybody who's new. We've got a lot of new folks over the last couple of days, which is super encouraging. We really welcome everyone and want you to feel welcome here. So please feel free to ask as many questions you want. Please say hello to us in the chat. Let me introduce myself to everybody who might be new. My name is Joshua Ritter. I was a former prosecutor with the LA District Attorney's Office. I was there for about 10 years. I left about 10 years ago to go into private practice as a criminal defense attorney. And we started this channel, Courtroom Confidential, with the idea of presenting to you both sides of the courtroom. And this week, we have been doing some special coverage of the Nancy Guthrie case. And one thing I would like to say before we begin, I've seen some feedback, not so much from our community, but some feedback online from people on Twitter saying, you know what, there's too much attention being put on this case. Why are we talking about this case still? And I think that's first of all, a legitimate question. And people point out, listen, people go missing, unfortunately, all the time. There's other missing people in the world right now. Are we doing too much for a quote unquote celebrity? All of those, I think, are legitimate questions, but all of those things are not necessarily mutually exclusive. In other words, I think you can put a lot of time and attention on the case of this woman who's missing and not ignore other things and not be saying that those other things are unimportant. Just by highlighting one case doesn't mean that you feel the other cases are unimportant. We have to make those types of choices all the time. We cover certain trials and we don't others. And it really has to do a lot with what you guys want to see, a lot with what the news is covering. And sometimes it's just a call that we're making here at the channel that we find something interesting or I'm fascinated with it. And there's some aspect of it that I want to get into it. But this case in particular, if you're asking, well, what's the significance of this? This type of kidnappings do happen, but this type of kidnapping involving a person connected to what I'll say is a celebrity, a high profile person like Savannah Guthrie. She is very well known, very well liked, a host of the Today Show, one of the most popular shows on TV. She's been in news for a very, very long time. Huge following online, huge social media presence. For someone close to her to go missing and perhaps be the subject of a kidnapping, perhaps not, we'll get into that a little bit later, is incredibly rare. And that's another reason why this is significant. It's not even so much about who Savannah Guthrie is. It's just we haven't seen something like this literally in about 50 years. We looked into it, and there was, Sinatra's, one of the Sinatra children, I think, was one of the cases 50-something years ago, going back to the 70s. The Getty's grandson, going back to the 70s. It just doesn't happen. When kidnappings take place where it's involving high net worth people, there's kidnappings that take place involving, people in domestic disputes all the time, or people connected to cartels, unfortunately, all the time. But for somebody where they're just looking for money, how that usually happens is it's the CEO of a very expensive company, but you've never heard that CEO's name. Okay. It's the CEO of, I don't know, John Deere tractors. Don't ask me why in the world I thought of that, but a big corporation, but you've never heard of that CEO. They're not somebody famous. They kidnap somebody related to them because they know they're going to get money. They know that person's got money, and they know it's not going to attract attention. Why, if your purpose is to kidnap somebody for ransom, do you want to attract attention? Why do you want to kidnap somebody that you know the world is going to react to? Yeah, Savannah Guthrie's got some money. She's not the most wealthy person in the entire world. Yeah, she's on TV. She's a part of the news media. Not particularly controversial. I don't think any message is being sent here. So because of that, I think is part of the reason why we're talking about it, and why it is significant, and why a lot of people are interested. But I just wanted to acknowledge the idea that there are folks out there who are like, you know what? I don't get it. Why are we doing this? Why are we continuing to talk about this? So anyhow, let me update all of you as to what is going on that case. So I have been here in Tucson. Well, let me first of all say thank you to Afton for tip for using alacrity for this morning. Yeah, we should play some sort of bingo game where you guys give me a challenge word and I try to fit it into some news hit. And if I do, you all owe me a nickel. Linda Elliott, thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member. I appreciate that. That's very kind. Grizzly Grandma, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you. Renee has been a member for 7 months, everybody. Golf clap for Renee. And Cody in Tennessee, thank you for the super chat. Says coffee for Josh to get ready for tonight's show. My goodness. I hope not. I hope I get a little bit of a break, but I'll take the coffee anyways. Arizona Gal, thank you for the super chat. Says, hi, Josh. Can you send me your t-shirt size? I'll share my email with Tiff in the chat. I'd love to send a Tucson care package since you didn't get to explore. Thanks for your coverage. That is very kind of you. Yeah. I've been here since Sunday, and I feel like I have no idea what Tucson is actually like. I know what it's like between my hotel and the sheriff's department at about 4 o'clock in the morning, but I don't really know what it's like other than that. I haven't got to enjoy the scenery, enjoy the food, and it looks beautiful here. It actually reminds me a lot of the California desert out by Palm Springs. Very beautiful area, but also also an area where the city abuts the desert. I mean, you go from city to desert in about one street, and you could see how somebody could easily get lost, be hidden way out in this wilderness. Proud Grizzly, thank you so much for the super chat, sending to the coffee fund. Appreciate you. All right, let's get into the latest developments. So the biggest thing that took place in this case, and let me set the stage. Savannah Guthrie gave us her final video. I say final, meaning the latest video, where she was speaking. And if you have that, Kaylin, please play it because it's not that long, where she's speaking directly to us, the public. Before then, she had made several statements with her family members. And it was her communicating with who they believed had her mother, ransomers, kidnappers. And a lot of it was this kind of coded language. A lot of it was cryptic, I guess is a good word for it. And we're trying to parse out, what is she talking about? Do they know who the ransomers are? Is any of this legitimate? And then she released a statement over the weekend, and it was just her. And as soon as you get it, Kaylin, go ahead and play it, and I'll stay quiet. But she's speaking directly into the camera, and she is she doesn't even mention kidnapping, doesn't mention the ransomers, doesn't speak to them, but instead says, we need your help from the public. We need your help. Go ahead, Kaylin.
Hi there, everybody. I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock, trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
My heart breaks for her and her family. I mean, can you imagine this nightmare? The fact that she's even got the willpower and strength to collect herself enough to create this video is just astounding to me for what they're going through over the last 11 days now we're talking about. But some significant things that stand out immediately. One, we've already talked about this. She's not speaking to the kidnappers anymore. She's speaking directly to the public. Two, she doesn't even talk about a ransom or a kidnapping. She says taken. I think that was probably the only carefully chosen word in this whole thing. That's the other thing that stands out is all of the prior statements were carefully curated language, scripted. She was holding pieces of paper. This one, she's just speaking extemporaneously from her heart. And the message is, we need your help. Please send us tips, no matter how far away you are from Tucson. And she says that we are in an hour of desperation. That to me, this was a significant change in the investigation, in my view. In my view, without her or the investigators, the FBI has taken this over, so I'm going to mainly refer to them. Without them explicitly saying it, this is them saying, we're no longer treating this as a kidnapping for ransom. We're not dealing with those kidnappers. We don't believe them to be legitimate. They have not said that. I am saying that based upon their actions proceeding forward. Because the other thing, the subtext to all of this is, I don't really care how you respond to this would-be kidnappers. If you're trying to cooperate with kidnappers and negotiate the transfer of $6 million to get your mother back, you're not going to release a video saying, hey, everybody, please help me catch these folks. Okay. So in my view, they no longer view this. They no longer view the ransoms that they've been seeing as legitimate. Doesn't mean it wasn't a kidnapping, but I don't believe they've been contacted by any kidnapper. So first question I guess you could get out of this is, was this a kidnapping or was this something else? That brings us to the next development, which was, I mean, it was a sea change in this entire case. We go from her saying, please send us any tips, FBI saying, please send us any tips. The last we heard from the sheriff on this is them saying, we've got nothing. We've got no leads. We've got no suspects. We've got no persons of interest. DNA has yielded nothing. Surveillance has yielded nothing. Digital footprints have yielded nothing. They've got bupkis. And then the FBI releases this video or set of photographs that comes along with this video. And we heard this was yesterday. Okay, so Guthrie, Savannah releases her statement on Monday. Then yesterday, Tuesday, this video is released to us. And we're told about this early on, that a video is coming. And we're all, oh my God, video. But because we'd been told they couldn't recover anything from it's a Nest device, we now know, from the Nest camera, because they didn't have a subscription. You've all heard that. We thought it was lost forever. So we're thinking, okay, maybe it's from some other home in the neighborhood. Maybe it's from a traffic light. Maybe it's from a gas station. It's going to be some grainy thing that's several, 100 yards away, and it's going to show some kind of person lumbering along, and we're going to go, anybody know who this is? Not helpful. Nope. This is what we get. High definition, up close video of who this person is. Now, you could say, well, how does this help? The guy's wearing a mask. It helps tremendously. From this video, you're going to get approximate height, because they can look at the height of the suspect compared to the height of those arches. They can get footprint size based upon those tiles. They can do remarkable stuff with all of this. They're going to get height. They're going to get weight. They're going to get build. They're going to get certainly gender, facial. A lot of people have pointed out facial hair. So much is going to come of this. Now, why that doesn't obviously give us enough to say, have you seen this person on the street? But it does a couple of things. One, if there is somebody watching who knows this person, they're going to identify that person immediately. I'll tell you right now, you could put Tiffany in a ski mask and gloves and covered from chin to toes, and I would recognize her immediately. If somebody knows this person, they're going to recognize them immediately from the way they're walking, everything about them. The other thing it does, though, is because the way police work, when this crime first took place, they had a list of usual suspects. They're thinking about who do they know is good for Resbergs, who has been recently released from prison, who's good for assaults, who's good for who is their top suspects, just based upon the crime. Who are the people they want to go take a look at? They've got a list, and now they've got a general description that they can start scratching names off of that list. If you're looking at this, you're not going to look for, Fat Tony, who you think might be good for the crime, or for tall, slim Jeffrey, who you think might be good for the crime. You have a general description, and you're going to be able to narrow down that list of potentials of usual suspects. And that really helps in resources and going out and door knocking and figuring out where each of those people might have been. That's a huge thing. And this is the first time law enforcement is seeing this. I was confident, and I'm still a little surprised that I'm not right, because I'm always surprised when I'm not right, that we didn't hear that some law enforcement officer, some detective, some guy who's arrested this jerk in the past goes, I know exactly who that is. I arrested him 6 years ago. He did 3 years in Arizona State Prison for a Resberg. I know who that is. That is why this type of video is helpful, even when you're not seeing a face. And what immediately starts to happen? Activity, which was also incredibly encouraging. We saw nothing. We thought this case was dead in the water, and then we saw activity. We know that law enforcement was getting a flood of tips in, which is fantastic. They've got resources out here. They've sent several agents out here. They've got basically the entire Pima County Sheriff's Department at their disposal. Now they've got stuff to hunt down, leads to look into. And already that yielded something. Now let's talk a little bit about what it yielded. Last night, well, first of all, let me say, just to share this experience with all of you, if you didn't watch our stream yesterday, after this video that we're looking right here was released, I had been where we are positioned for the coverage that we're doing is right in front of the Pima County Sheriff's Department. And I'm staring at, I'm standing there like that jerk. And I'm staring at several trucks, these trucks right here. These are the Pima County SWAT, bomb squad, tactical headquarters, all of these trucks, a lot of hardware. They've been sitting there gathering dust the entire time. We had been told, almost half jokingly, if you see one of those trucks move, you know something's happening. That's how you guys will be the first to know. And this is what happened within hours of that video coming out. And we all grabbed our phones because we go, holy moly, it's happening. 4 out of those 5 trucks took off within about 30 minutes of each other soon after this came out. And then we start to hear the chatter that, oh my Lord, they're on the move. They've found someone. And they did. They detained someone last night. His name was, I've got it right here, Carlos Palazuelos. This is Carlos. Now, Carlos, we thought, was good for this because what we were being told is that he was detained and being questioned, and they had secured a search warrant for his residence. All of that is immediately making you think this is the guy. I go to bed late last night, thinking this case is essentially solved and that I'm going to wake up the next morning and all of the questions that I'm going to be talking about on TV are going to be about what next? When is his arraignment going to be? What kind of charges should we expect? Who will be his attorney? Blah, 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 blah. Instead, I wake up to, they let Carlos go. Now, you could look at that and go, wow, what a setback. Wow, what a misstep. Oh my God, they've got nothing. No, this is how investigations proceed, okay? There are many, many investigations that are going on that we don't talk about. They're not all over the news. And that happens all the time. You get a lead, you follow up. You get a lead, you go out, you find that person, you find a reason to stop them, you detain them, and you ask some questions. It happens all the time. And you might get a search warrant. And it leads to nothing. And you don't say, oh my God, what a setback. You say, okay, check that one off. Who's next? Who are we looking at next? So don't be discouraged by this. It is good that police are out there being diligent and following up on these things. And one of these is going to lead to something. I fully believe that. That video is just too good. The walls are closing in. It's too hot. There's too much that can be learned from that. I'm going to say one more thing about this video, and I wanted to comment on what do I think is the current position of law enforcement about this crime, and then I'm going to take your guys' questions with the time that I have remaining. So what do we see here? We see a person who shows up in gloves. By the way, this is probably around 1:45 in the morning. And in the location where Nancy Guthrie lives, you do not stumble upon her home. This is not a crime of opportunity. This is not just some guy wandered off the street and thought, oh, maybe I'll go into that house. You have to know where you're going to in that neighborhood. The streets are all winding. There's not one right corner in that entire neighborhood. It's not a grid. It looks like scattershot. And there's a lot of dead ends, a lot of cul-de-sacs. So you have to know where you're going. That's one piece of information, one data point we have on him. Shows up wearing gloves, shows up wearing a mask, and has a backpack. This is obvious that this person knew where they were going, likely knew that there was a vulnerable victim who lived there, an older woman, and that she lived alone. And he's got a backpack and he's got a gun. He's coming there with nothing but bad intentions. Now, what were those intentions? Were those to commit a kidnapping for ransom? I'm beginning to think signs point toward no. Were those to commit a residential burglary? My experience says to me, no. Says to me, you don't show up with the handgun and all of that other gear to just go in and steal some stuff. And did she have something? We haven't heard about, she had some priceless Beanie Baby collection that people would be after. There's nothing about her that makes her a target for that. Okay. And there's nothing we've heard about the condition of the home that makes her a target for that. My suspicion is that he came there to commit some sort of assault or other crime. That may have gone bad, and he decided to take her with him. And I pray to God above that he decided to take her alive and that he's just holding her somewhere. But that to me is what this crime is starting to look like. And I think that's a reasonable interpretation from the way police have been handling it. They're not dealing with ransomers anymore. Now, I know Harvey Levin got in front of the camera yet again today and said, hey, we got another note. Oh, we got another note. This one is saying, we only want 1 Bitcoin. We've changed our minds. Just give us 1 coin, and we'll tell you who the kidnapper is. It's no longer we know where she is. It's I know who the kidnapper is, and I will. If you give me 1 Bitcoin, I'll give you that information. I'm saying nonsense to this. This case has become high profile enough that this is what you're going to deal with. You're going to deal with hoaxes and fraudsters and people looking to make a buck off of the misery of others. And I think that's exactly what this is. And FBI hasn't responded to it. They're not doing anything about it. They're working the pavement on this case. The way this case will be solved, and I said this earlier on the news, if any of you care to watch, and I appreciate all of those of you who do. I believe the smoking gun to this case is already in police possession. They have already found that evidence. It's in their possession. It's just a matter of analyzing it. This case has turned all analytical. It's all ones and zeros. They've got a haystack of ones and zeros, and they've got to find that needle in there. And that video, that surveillance video from her Nest camera is one of those things. Is that next bit of information going to be some sort of cellular geolocation? Is it coming from a cell tower? Is it coming from a license plate reader? What is it? We don't know, but I believe that's how this case is going to be solved, because they've been really shaking the bushes, as they say, when it comes to trying to find evidence. And I think they've probably done an admirable job, an adequate job of that. It's now just analyzing all of that evidence and finding something. And this is how it's going to be done. The other way is crowdsourcing. You put this information out there. You guys, if you're on X at all, Twitter, it's amazing what I've seen people do. They've analyzed this video. They've enhanced it. They've zeroed in on things. I saw people who were able to color correct it because it's night vision. I've seen people identify the windbreaker that he's wearing. I've seen people identify the light that he's likely has in his mouth. I saw one picture, I don't know if it's true, where it looked like they had zeroed in on his cuff and it looked like he had a tattoo on his wrist. That is something, if true, you could put 24 agents on this full time and they might miss that. But you give this to the world of 1 million people who are all internet sleuthing this thing. Is that the picture? I know it was something like that, but it was a similar picture where he had his hand up and you could see down his cuff just a bit and it looked like there was a tattoo. So that to me is how this is going to break. It's the information they already have. They're just waiting for somebody to come forward, somebody with the guts. I keep on saying one last thing, but one last thing. If this person is who I think they are, the type of person, they're not this sophisticated team of kidnappers for ransom. It's some a-hole who found a vulnerable woman and decided to commit a crime. If I know a-holes, and I think I do, they can't keep their mouths shut. And he's told somebody, or he's going to tell somebody. And we just hope that that somebody does the right thing. Let me see if I got some questions here, and I will do my best to answer them. Mimi, thank you so much for saying that. This is the best reporting on this nightmare I've seen. Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you so much, Josh, for your credibility and factual analysis. So happy to be part of this channel. We are very happy to have you, Mimi. Thank you for that. Oh, I love your little AI generated emoticon there too. Patty Nelson, thank you so much for the super chat. Afton, thank you for gifting the memberships. Welcome aboard, everybody who receives those. Our numbers are growing, and we are very encouraged by that. Linda Griffin, thank you for becoming a member. Maybe Megan, maybe not. Thank you for becoming a member. Welcome aboard. Cody in Tennessee, thank you for super chat. Says, didn't TMZ report of another random letter today. Yeah, I think if you had asked this question earlier and I missed it, yeah, that's what I was talking about with Harvey. He had gone on, said he received said he'd received a new letter, and the letter had asked for 1 Bitcoin, and said that they had knowledge of who the kidnapper was. I'm sure FBI is following up on it. I'm sure they're trying to deal with it. I'm sure they're even, by the way, I'm sure Savannah's even considering doing it. Bitcoin, I think, was at $66,000 today. That's not an insignificant sum, but it also is kind of close to the idea of, do you pay that just because maybe it is legitimate? I don't know. The view from our house, thank you so much, says, I finally caught a live. Love the whole CC team. So hope Miss Nancy is found soon. I do too. There's the number, 1-800-CALL-FBI. I'm going to put this out as much as possible. I know that this goes out to people around the world, but let's help them out. If you got anything, call 1-800-CALL-FBI. Raina, thank you so much for the super sticker. All right, Tiff. Start picking the questions. I'm going to let Tiffany pick the questions today, everybody. So we'll see what we got. Crime Curious, thank you so much for gifting a membership. Appreciate you. Allie Foley, thank you for gifting a membership. That's very kind of you. Thank you, Heather Cooper Smith, for the super sticker. Appreciate that. Oh boy, that is one of the rejected robots from Star Wars. ART7F, thank you for the gifted memberships. Very kind of you. All right. Debbie Haro says, since you've been on both sides of the fence, are you seeing anything being done wrong or you've handled differently? The first thing when you ask that, Debbie, that comes to my mind immediately is the messaging coming from the sheriff's department in the early days of this. Very poorly done. I had interpreted the actions of the sheriff as being earnest and trying to help and wanting to do what's right, but instead he flooded the airwaves with a bunch of information. Some of it has proven to be true. Some of it has proven to not be true. Some of it he's had to walk back. Some of it he's had to be very vague about all of a sudden. It's caused a lot of people to be curious and conspiracy theories to run wild. None of it was helpful. Then he's next seen at a basketball game. Just a poor choice. I don't know anything about this man before I got out here, but I will tell you that nearly across the board, I have not heard many people who are a fan of him, and in particular to how he's handled this. I think that was some damage done early on. Now he's dropped away. He's ghosted us. The FBI has taken over, and I hope that's a sign of good things to come. But I don't think it's done damage to the case, but it certainly was not helpful. Thank you for that, Debbie. Alba Luna says, what kind of crime, if not burglary? I don't understand. I'm going to be very careful in my choice of words here because I don't know, obviously, but people commit all sorts of heinous crimes, Alba, and they break into people's homes who are vulnerable to commit all sorts of crimes, different types of assaults, different crimes involving property. There are maniacs in this world. And, bringing a backpack along with him, is that because he had tools to subdue a person inside of that backpack? Or was that backpack brought along to bring things out of the house? I don't know. And I've heard many different theories about it. And I think a lot of them are good theories. Problem is, we don't know. I'm just saying, if we're only considering this as a kidnapping, that's a misstep. We should be considering some of those alternatives. Thank you, Alba. Venice Gal says, is it possible they flipped the first guy from last night against the others and sent him back out? Weird, maybe, etc. Wired, maybe, etc. I love that. Love that creative thinking. I think highly unlikely. That guy was already on TV saying, I don't know why they grabbed me. I'm a delivery driver. I have no idea what's up. I've never heard of this lady. They would not be letting him out that quickly if they had not cleared him, in my view. They still are in their They're still not even past the timeline that they're allowed to hold somebody under reasonable suspicion. They could have been still holding them today if they felt like they had a reason to. No, I don't think that's true. And so it's good to maybe ask, well, why did this guy fall on their radar? Well, we've heard one, that there may have been a tipster involved who was apparently his mother-in-law, who says the eyes of the person in the video looks like his eyes. Sounds like he's got a great relationship with his mother-in-law. I'm sure they'll be having some interesting conversations over the next Thanksgiving. We also know that he was a driver. He could have delivered a package to Nancy's home. That package could still be sitting in her home, and they might have grabbed the package. I'm talking about investigators, and found out when was this last delivered and who delivered it and when, and all of that stuff. There's also the idea of geofencing. They're trying to figure out by reverse engineering the telephone towers around there, who was in that area at certain times, or who was in that area that doesn't live in that area on dates prior. And maybe they're just kind of ticking through some of these boxes. Whatever it was, though, I will say this, there was enough for a search warrant. So it probably just wasn't one thing, maybe a bunch of things put together, but whatever it was didn't pan out. But great question, Veniscal. Therapist, I've heard of you, says, do you think the 300 Bitcoin deposit shows they did not pay the ransom? Great question. This is something I missed. So going back to Harvey, again, he says that they've been monitoring that original Bitcoin wallet and that $300 had been deposited in it. After speaking with people in law enforcement, some things were made clear. First of all, the last letter from the would-be ransomers that was sent to the Guthries was not sent to TMZ. Okay. So a Bitcoin wallet, which is essentially a bank account, can be set up in a matter of minutes and doesn't require all that much identification. It's not like you have to walk into Chase Bank and give them all sorts of information, and it takes a while. You can do it online relatively quickly. The theory is that Bitcoin wallet originally provided to TMZ has been abandoned by the ransomers, or that it was a Bitcoin wallet used for illegal purposes by these ransomers, and they're just back to business as usual. And this is a $300 payment for a fake passport that they're selling on the dark web. Your imagination can go wherever you want with that it might have nothing to do with any of this. But I've heard that, was that a bait from the FBI, or is that their way of testing it? Everybody I've talked to says that's not how the FBI operates, and definitely not how they would operate in this case. But great question, therapist. Pantufel says, what kind of legal trouble are any random hoaxers who get caught in? Lots. Certainly federal crimes and significant federal crimes, I would say. I wish I had an idea of exposure for you, but I do know they've already arrested a hoaxer who wasn't even related to the ransom. It was just some jerk who got the cell phone numbers for Annie Guthrie, the sister, Savannah's sister, and texted her saying, "Did you pay that ransom yet?" kind of a deal. And they found that guy easily and arrested him and charged him with federal crimes. But he's looking at prison time. I'm not sure what exposure it would be for something like this. But yeah, it's bad trouble. Derek Sherman, thank you so much for the super chat, says, Josh, maybe Nancy dropped blue sweater as she was being kidnapped out the front door entrance that was filmed on Sunday morning laying on the rocks. I know a lot of people have talked about that blue sweater. Interestingly enough, law enforcement hasn't ever talked about it. So I don't know its significance in relation to the kidnapper or the crime or Nancy or what have you, or if it was just left there by, some random family member who responded to the home that day. In the chaos of mom not being home, did somebody drop that? I have never heard anybody reference that as being any kind of piece of evidence of any significance. But thank you for asking, Derek. All right, I think I have time for a few more here. Chihuahua Mama says, Josh, stay hydrated and take care of yourself. I will do that, Chihuahua Mama. Michelle Hansen says, do we know who has taken the lead? Seems like the FBI, and I hope so, but Sheriff says it's Pima County. Does that limit what FBI can do? FBI has taken the lead. Okay. There's a lot of politics sometimes that goes on. And I understand that this sheriff is kind of one of those people to feel like his toes are being stepped on. There is some jurisdictional issues. It's not like in the movies where you see where everybody's kind of fighting over it. Usually these departments are welcome the FBI. They have unlimited resources. It's the federal US government. They can basically do whatever they want to do. And they've got all the technology and all the resources, and they can throw hundreds of agents at this thing and hundreds of analysts and just way more than what Pima County Sheriff can do. And I'm not, and that is no insult toward Pima County Sheriff. They could do that toward LA County Sheriff. They're just bigger. And because of the ransoms, true or not true, taking place over the internet and asking for transfer of money that would likely include interstate activity, there's an argument to be made that the feds have jurisdiction here anyways. But what I've been told is that they have fully taken the lead in this. Pima is not out of it. Like I said, their trucks rolled out. They're certainly assisting in all of this, but they are not the lead on it. And I agree with you. I hope so too. And I think that's true. All right. Marta Fonda says, why on earth do you think he grabbed the foliage to cover the camera instead of just holding it with one hand and tearing the camera off with the other? Great question. So if we have that part of the video to show to you. So he walks up here and immediately kind of notices the camera. Now, I know a lot of these cameras, when they are activated, because they kind of sit dormant, they're not just always taping, but once motion is detected, then the camera turns on, which can sometimes cue a noise, not like a loud noise, but kind of the sounds of a mechanism turning on, and can sometimes cue a small LED light. So it does appear as though he walks up and then notices that and immediately tries to cover the camera. And now he's in a moment of trying to figure out what to do. And this was a lot of people have pointed to this to say, well, was this person just not prepared and they don't know what they're doing? And are they clumsy and this is not a pre-planned attack. I think this is fully planned. Gloves, mask, backpack, who's got a mouth operated flashlight? This person's very prepared to do something bad intentions. But it is kind of this almost absurd moment of improvisation where he's like, well, I want to disable this camera, but I don't want to be caught and I don't want anybody to see my face. And he's got nothing to hide his face with. So he grabs some shrubs, some flowers, and tries to use that. It is comical, but I wouldn't read into that he didn't know where the house was and never been before. Could be absolutely been to that house, absolutely knew who lived there, but just unaware of the camera. I mean, who knows when was the last time he was at the house, and who knows when that camera got installed, and was it new to him, or had he just never noticed it, or what? But it is a very astute observation, Marta. Thank you for that. All right, let me do like maybe two more, Tiffany, and then I'm going to have to kind of wrap things up here. I appreciate you guys. Tanika 2 cents says, I think the foliage was used to remove the camera. He doesn't have the dexterity to reach behind the camera and manipulate the release button. So that's an interesting question too. How did he get this camera off? We don't see the moment that he actually removes it in this video. So we don't know how it was done. We don't know if it was just done by brute force, ripping it off. We don't know if he used some tool. We also don't know how secured that camera was. These cameras, and in particular hers, was battery operated. In other words, there's no hard wiring into the home. So he didn't have to dismantle any wiring. Some of these things, they have ways of screwing them and securing them and making them so you can't just rip them off the wall. Others, if the person didn't set it up properly, can just be popped off. And it doesn't look like there's any obvious tool markings or damage. Could have just popped this thing off once he figured it out. But great question, Tanika 2 cents. Donna Barnes says, Josh, do you believe the family involved at all? Great question. And I'm going to let this be my last question, okay? Because it's a subject that we haven't talked on. I know that Savannah's sister, Annie, and Annie's husband, Tommaso, have been receiving a lot of suspicion online. I will share with you guys that every source I have has told me they are not a suspect. They have been cleared, whatever that means. If that's cleared through the use of technology or alibi or whatever it is, they are not active suspects. Now, doesn't mean that doesn't change. Doesn't mean that they can't get new information and reevaluate, but they are not actively pursuing the sister or the brother-in-law as a suspect here. But why did they fall on the radar? Well, statistically, yeah. I mean, the statistical chance of Nancy Guthrie being abducted by a perfect stranger is almost as good as her being abducted by aliens. It's just so statistically low. The chance, and this is just how police work. They work on the odds. That's how you do most of police work. You work on the odds. And you go, woman abducted, let's take a look at the family. And so sure, they've interviewed them. Sure, they've taken vehicles and they're going to analyze those vehicles. Sure, they've gone back and done photographs. I think it's a mistake, though, to view all of this police activity as if that's an ongoing suspect. They have constantly maintained they have no person of interest. They have no suspects. They are just pounding the pavement. And that means Savannah's probably been interviewed several times. They've no doubt swabbed everybody for DNA. They've no doubt confirmed everybody's alibis, including Savannah. I mean, that's just police work, how you do it. And you start from the inner circle and you start to work your way out. They've taken swabs, buccal swabs of nearly everybody who's ever had a reason to be inside that home. So they must have some unidentified DNA that they're trying to see what the source of that is. All right, I see we have a couple of other kind of special announcements. Let me do some thank yous. Joy W. Can, thank you so much for supporting the mods with coffee. Jay Todd, thank you supporting the mods with coffee. Helen the Scottish Llama. Oh, I love this. You even type in Scottish. A wee addition to the caffeine fund. Thank you so much for that. Dr. Jen Toxic has been a member for 8 months, everybody. Appreciate your coverage. Appreciate you for being here and being a member. K9 Catherine, 18 months. So very heartbreaking. Excellent coverage. Mahalo. Thank you very much for saying that. And Ms. Annie K, 7 months. Thanks, CC, for such great coverage of a sad saga. Well, thank you for being here. Chihuahua Mama, 8 months. So honored to be part of such an amazing community. Thank you for that. Sneemac, good to see you. Sneemac has been a member for 9 months. Says, I think reaching out to TMZ and asking for crypto points to a certain age demographic. Def not a 55-year-old woman. Oh, that's a good point too. That's a good point too. I think that you can draw some conclusions from the idea that it's being requested in crypto rather than non-sequential unmarked bills or something like that. Very good point, Sneemac. TU Toys, bingo word, javelina. Oh, I could work javelina in. They're all over the place here. I haven't seen one yet, but I'll find a way to work in javelina. Skullduggery, a little more difficult. I feel like I would feel a little... Skullduggery's definite bonus points. I'll see what I can do. All right. Thank you, Derek Sherman, for the memberships, giving the memberships. Very kind of you. No live tonight. Right. You're looking at it right now. If you want a live this evening, just rewatch this one. There you go. Let me do some quick announcements and then get everybody out of here, including myself. Maybe I can catch a quick nap before I've got more fun. What did you miss? On Monday and Tuesday, we had special coverage. And it's still kind of current stuff. I mean, not a lot has changed. So if you want to catch up on more of this case, please watch our episodes from both Monday and Tuesday, where I share, kind of the same stuff. And then stay tuned. Today, Fox Nation has also been doing daily episodes for what we're not calling it the weekly rap sheet. We're calling it Missing Nancy Guthrie. So that's what you should be searching for on Fox Nation. That will be live today at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow, Thursday, actually, there is other stuff going on in the world. On CC Live Trials, we will be covering the opening statements in the Dale Warner trial. So time to be determined. Please stay tuned for that. Something to kind of keep your mind off of this entire saga. On Friday, no weekly roundup, but we're going to be doing another one of these specials because I just don't know my schedule. And I apologize, guys. I'm just getting pulled in so many different directions, and I'm probably getting on a plane that same day. So we'll figure it out. We'll make it, even if I'm holding a camera like an absolute fool while I'm doing it in front of everybody, I will do a live for you on Friday. Just stay tuned for how that all goes down. But Sunday Fun Day, we'll be back at its normal time, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern, and we'll be answering your questions that you've left me throughout the week. So that's all I got for you. You're all fantastic. Let me thank some of our new members, though. Heather M., Sean Ball, True Crime Lover, Michelle Ann Trim, Catherine, Cass XO, Weebug, Stephanie Presley, Professor Joe Law Academy, Kelly Stewart, Dread, Laura RPG, Just Amy, Love True Crimes, Kurt Smith, Nanny K, Toes in the Sand, Emily Jones, Off with the Pixie is, Kelly B. In It, Govinda J, Govinda J, Michelle H, Katie, Trish Adams, J.A. Hilo, L Lemon, LB, and Golden Girl. You guys are all fantastic. Welcome aboard. Thank you so much. Please check out our website, thecourtroomconfidential.com. If you would like to become a member, we would love to have you. Please join the crew and find out about all the benefits. We put a lot of work into it, and we'd love to have your support. Special shout out and thank you to our mods. Aren't they fantastic? Afton, Shy Gal, Kathy, and Therapist, you guys are amazing. Kaylin, you're amazing. Thank you so much. Gavin will be here on Monday, is what I'm being told. And so what I should tell all of you, he will be here, Gavin Fish. And thank you to Kaylin. You're incredible, and you're feeling better because everybody wished you to feel better. So that's good. And Tiffany, you are, as always, the best thing that happened to me. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.